Hi again, everyone, and welcome to From the Median podcast. This is Jerry Serino, your host. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you being here and for following us on social media, and also for subscribing on all the different podcast apps as well. Please go to fromthemedian.org if you want to connect with us and check us out and communicate with us. I'd love to hear from you. We have a lot going on in the state of Ohio and really all over the country. In regards to abortion. Obviously, this is a strong pro-life show, and we love showcasing strong pro-life individuals, especially when they're in positions of great influence. And my guest today is Judge David Engler. He's a Trumbull County judge, and he's here to talk about some things that he and those of us in Ohio, and again, all throughout the country, are facing. Judge Engler, thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me, Jerry. I very much appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. So let me first, for everybody, if you can give sort of your background, what you're doing now, and sort of even your brief, history leading up to
Sure.
now.
Yeah, right. It's been a strange, long trip, but wonderful.
Yeah.
The I'm a Trumbull County judge. That's Warren, Ohio, Niles, Ohio, Howland. Uh, I have been in this position for only 2 years. Prior to that time, I've been a constitutional litigator for 40 years. Very busy practice. I represented Boys to Men in a record deal in England a number of years
Mhm.
back. I've represented the producer of Hot in Cleveland right after he signed Betty White for a contract, and it, the largest white collar criminal in America at the time, who had far more stores. Uh, so I had many different legal experiences. And in addition to that, I had been a Mahoning County commissioner back in the 90s, and
Okay.
a Youngstown city councilman, and 22 years on a school board, a county school board, and a career center technical school. Uh, and a couple technology companies along the way too that I started and sold. So I had some experience in technology. So most importantly, though, I'm married to Diane from Willowick, Ohio, and also a uh, grandfather of five, father of three. So that's my background. But yeah,
Lovely.
yeah, I came into this issue today, Jerry, which is
Yeah.
just fascinating, and I give my wife credit for it because she wanted me to go to the Bring America Back to Life conference up in Cleveland that was held March 13th, I think was the date.
Yep.
Now, and I was am running for this spot, 11th District Court of Appeals, which is the far right hand corner of Ohio. And in the context of running for that, I was seeking the endorsement from the Right to Life uh, Action Coalition of Ohio. So I got to speak to those group of people. And one of the issues I was talking about was the use of AI and how important it is. It's changing everything we do in the law, absolutely everything.
Sure.
Now, not in the future, right now. I mean, in my case I just handled, there was a complicated mortgage issue out of a Washington Mutual that had gone under back in California. But AI helped resolve those issues that we come up with every day in court. So that in talking to the group, I like, okay, I'll tell you what, over lunch, I'll go away and I'll research the issue. Does anyone in this group of 800 or 1,000 people at that conference,
Mhm.
does anyone have a possible standing, and standing's a legal concept, right, to challenge the 2023 abortion amendment? I'm proficient with the use of technology, so I did my research. I'm doing the research, and it shows me that it's me, that I have standing as a juvenile court judge to challenge this amendment. It was a literally a revelation, and I believe it's a, God put me in that race, in that room at that point in time with the
Yeah.
set of abilities that I have, that I feel blessed to have, to do that research and find out that every juvenile court judge in Ohio has standing to bring this action. And
Okay.
the reason is this, and it's not complicated. There
If I
is,
can stop you,
go ahead,
just one
please.
second, just because I'm
Yeah.
hoping that everyone, we have listeners from all over the place. So a couple of years, well, you mentioned 2023 It was the abortion amendment in the Ohio Constitution was put to a vote. The people unfortunately voted for it, and so it's enshrined. It's in our Constitution, right? This is what you're referring to for those that aren't aware.
Yeah.
And so you're asking about, well, what can we do about it, right? It's in the Constitution. What can we do about it? And this is what you're explaining. So go ahead then.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you for that
Yeah.
information. So, right. So the amendment passed in Ohio in 2023. It was effective December of 2023. So, like, what can I do about it? And there's this process that's been in place for the last 30 years. It's called judicial bypass, and states throughout America have the same thing. Judicial bypass is when a minor who did not want their parents to consent would come to the juvenile court judge, and the court, like myself and other judges, would appoint a guardian, interview the young lady, and make a determination: is she mature enough, what are the circumstances involving her pregnancy, and why she wants to seek an abortion. And the courts, regardless of our faith background, regardless of our personal positions, Jerry, we would make that decision and then grant it or deny it.
Mhm.
And it worked. There was never an issue with the judicial bypass. But because of that amendment in 2023, judicial bypass was wiped out. It's gone because parental consent is no longer necessary in Ohio. It's no longer needed because the language of the amendment was so broad that it said any individual. Okay. So it takes in kids. It actually
Mhm.
takes in kids. And my thing is, I'm a judge. And under Article 4 of the Ohio Constitution, it says I have my powers from the Ohio Constitution. And now you have this other article of the Constitution, Article 1, Section 22, that is in direct conflict with Article 4, where judges get their authority. And so, because there's a conflict in the Constitution, that gave me the ability to file an original action. It's called an original action, meaning I go directly to the Ohio Supreme Court. And 3 weeks ago tomorrow, I filed this action saying, hey, Supreme Court, my constitutional rights need to be clarified. Because as a judge, and on behalf of all the judges, we had this job to do, but no, we no longer do it. They got rid of it by implication, not specifically but by implication. So I'm asking the Supreme Court to send it back to the ballot commission. This is what I think the answer is. Send
Mhm.
it back to the ballot commission that wrote the language in the first place, right? And in that language, this time, be sure to indicate to parents that parents, you no longer will have consent over this medical procedure. Number one. Number two, judges, you no longer have a role to play. If you explicitly state it like that, then the public can vote on it again. But
Mhm.
until that time, I'm saying enjoin the actual amendment itself. So that's what the basis of my lawsuit is. And it's all about two things. And there are two things that I took an oath to uphold. It's like parental rights, fundamental, right? And two, the safety of kids. Because today in Ohio, your 15-year-old needs your permission to get a tattoo, but not an abortion. It's absurd that they chipped away, not chipped away, they used an axe and cut it away, the ability for parents to be a parent. And they can't do that. And the law is so clear on this, they cannot do this.
So essentially, what you're saying is that this law in the Constitution allows minors to do whatever they want. They don't need parents' permission and you, as a judge, to be able to adjudicate any kind of disagreement or approvals. Is that correct? Would that be a
That's
good way of summarizing it?
that's an excellent way of summarizing it. Right.
Okay, so children, 15, as you mentioned, 15, 16-year-olds could go and have
14.
a yeah, any age can have a pretty serious medical procedure, regardless of what you believe about abortion. It's a medical procedure. You're in a doctor's office, right? There's potential complications. You're saying that parents have no say, and you, as a judge, have no say, which is contrary to other law, correct?
Correct. Correct. Very
Okay.
contrary. And it's there's this principle, and I think it's beautiful in the Ohio constitutional law. It's called the Martens issue, Martens, and it says the following: there are inalienable rights, certain inalienable rights that are not conferred by the Ohio Constitution. Okay, it wasn't created by the Ohio Constitution because they're inalienable, but they're recognized by the Ohio Constitution. And not even a popular vote of the public in the form of a referendum or this amendment can abridge, destroy, or alter those fundamental rights. And what's the fundamental right that I'm speaking of? It's the right to be a parent. It's the right
Mhm.
to be present when your child needs you the most, undergoing a procedure where there are certainly complications, right? And undergoing a procedure where if it's your faith, you believe, well, that's my grandchild that's being aborted.
Mhm.
Or what are the long-term implications for your 15-year-old daughter in terms of making this decision? We know that 15-year-olds and 16-year-olds 17-year-olds and these kids don't have the right mental capacity to make such decisions.
Yeah.
And the and it's the far left, Jerry. It's the
Yeah.
radical left. And I think sent you a text of this,
Yeah.
and a young lady said this, like, when you allow people to chip away, cut off our fundamental rights one at a time, there will be no end to what they want to take away from us as Americans. And, there's almost nothing more fundamental than the fact that you got to be a parent.
Hmm. Yeah. So there's the other side of it too, is that let's say that there's a case of abuse, right? Say a 29-year-old gets a 14-year-old pregnant, right? And that type of stuff happens. That 29-year-old could just take that 14-year-old in, have the procedure, and no one is the wiser. If the parents aren't, if there, it's not necessary for the parents to be, you know, come to you or give approval, consent, and so on. That is one of the dangers, right?
Oh, absolutely. There are each year in Ohio, there's approximately 600 abortions performed on minors. Okay.
Hmm.
And so if you're a sex trafficker and you want to take your 15-year-old victim in or your 16-year-old victim in and get rid of the evidence of the crime, which is a baby, right?
Hmm.
In the uterus, you can do that and get her back out on the streets. If you're a pedophile, same thing. You take her to the provider and an abortion happens and the parents don't know anything about it. And it's the same type of attack upon fundamental rights. If you can do this for kids, uh, for such a serious procedure like an abortion, that medical procedure, well, where do you stop? How about sex reassignment? How
Hmm.
about smoking? Well, if you can make your own decision without your parents' involvement for an abortion, why not smoking? Why not
Hmm.
carrying a handgun? Why not any of those other things? Though that's because we still have common sense and we know kids are not competent to make those type of decisions. That's why
Yeah.
we're parents. But it's
Hmm.
absolutely under attack. And um, and Jerry, I told people this, I'm not sure if I win or lose in my race for the 11th District Court of Appeals up in Ashtabula and Lake County and Portage and Geauga. I might be in this race just to have found this litigation, just to bring this
Yeah.
forth in the state and raise this issue, with the help of people like yourself in your program.
Yeah, excellent. Well, we certainly hope you do. I think there are also, to your point, there are a lot of 16-year-olds who would love the right to drink instead of waiting till 21. Right? There are lots of things that kids would love to do that are much less controversial or harmful or deadly, because abortion is deadly. Right? 100% of abortions end in death, and so anyways, I mean, the hypocrisy is always insane on the left.
It's
They don't care, unfortunately.
and I approach this as I took an oath to protect the welfare of the kids of Trumbull County, right? And I know right now, and people said, "Well, you're running. Why didn't you wait to file this at a different time?" When you understand the danger that children are facing right now, you don't wait when you have a potential solution in hand to say, like, stop it, Supreme Court. And the respondents are Dave Yost and Frank LaRose. That's who the respondents are to my litigation. Those two fellas literally can step forth and say, "You know what, Judge Engler's right. We agree, and join the amendment. Let's send it back to the ballot commission, rewrite the language, and see if the public actually agrees with that notion, and let the political process play out. If the public really believes that there shouldn't be parental consent, then stand for it. But in Jerry, like right now, it's a very interesting thing that's happening. Is that there was an article in the Cleveland Plain Dealer,
Mhm.
and the reporter goes to a professor at Case Western Reserve, my alma mater, who then sort of trashes my lawsuit, right? But they went to her as if she's the neutral third party, like she's like
Right.
a non-interested party. But the lady's name is Professor Jessie Hill, and she's literally the director of the Reproductive Rights Initiative at Case Western Reserve. So her entire program, the job that she does is dependent on abortions in the abortion industry, and is calling it reproductive rights. And she also was the ACLU attorney, and she still might be, I'm not sure, that was very much involved and argued for the abortion language back in 2023. And interestingly, and here's a real clue to your audience, back in 2023, she states that parental rights are being eliminated. Today, in the plain dealer, it's a different story. I think they came to realize once I filed the lawsuit that they're on thin ice. So they said, "Oh, no, no, no." Planned Parenthood said the same thing. We require parental consent. Well, maybe they do, but they don't have to. It's not a requirement.
Mhm.
Consent is of the parent is gone. So they're now all rushing to say, "Oh, it's still a thing. Parental consent is still a thing." And it's not. If they want to be truthful, look at their own words they used in 2023 when they indicated that parental consent is not necessary.
Yeah. And I think we know from undercover videos that have been done for years now that Planned Parenthood does not take into account the person's age and their parent, and they have done some egregious things and ignored the law even when it was stated. They still didn't abide by it, so I don't trust them, and I'm sure you don't either. So if in fact, well, actually, let me ask you a question about the Plain Dealer article. Did they mention Professor Jesse Hill's affiliation of like what she was? Did they reference who she was, or did they just give a generic?
It was more of a generic. I think in passing, they said she was in charge of this program at Case Western Reserve University, but they interviewed someone for a group. I think it was called Abortion Forward, or some other group that was clearly an abortion proponent. Okay,
Mhm.
and that's fair. If you're writing a story and you want to get both sides, you heard what Judge Engler had to say, and then you go to the opposite side, which is the abortion provider side, and they're like, "Oh, no, no, this is." We have parental consent because
Mhm.
we asked for it. And then they throw in this Jesse Hill as like the third party neutral person,
Okay.
not neutral at all.
Yeah.
Absolutely not neutral at all. And they don't point that out, nor do they point out. And I sent a email back to that reporter saying, "Hey, look, here's what this lady said 2 years ago. She agrees with me. Parental consent is a thing of the past because she wrote the language, or helped write the language, at least."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, very interesting. So, and keep again, everyone needs to keep in mind is that this is about cons- parental consent. Obviously, we would love to do away with abortion, but even the pro-abortion side, they're against parental consent, even though they maybe say that they are. We know their true feelings. So, if you would kind of so if you win this, then you did describe, I think, a little bit like what would happen next.
Well, the Supreme Court should be setting forth a briefing schedule very shortly. And I'm still looking for another lawyer to represent me. There's been some larger public interest law firms that have spoken to me, but because I really don't want to represent myself. I'm busy as a judge and I'm
Hmm.
busy as a candidate for at least 7 more days. But what would happen next is what I would like to see is them to send it back to the ballot commission, say, enjoin the amendment, say, okay, it's not in effect right now. While we send it back to the ballot commission, and the ballot commission rewrites the language that I think Frank LaRose would be in charge of, rewrite the language and put in the language clearly, because you can eliminate my authority as a judge. The public
Hmm.
can by vote, but they have to spell it out. Now, can they eliminate parental so I'll speak, so it goes back to the
Hmm.
ballot commission,
Yeah.
and I'm asking the ballot commission to uh, write the language in there. That issue, though, that being a parent is a fundamental right, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
That there's a parent, that it's a right to be a parent in America.
Yeah.
Um, and taking it away from us is just terrible. And I'm hoping other people will understand what I'm saying and help me in this cause. Contact Dave Yost, contact Frank LaRose, contact those individuals. Ask the other people who are running for office where they stand on this issue. And one thing, Jerry, that's very important is, even though you're a judge now, there was a recent decision, April 2nd, that said just because you put on a black robe does not mean you lose your First Amendment right to speak. So I could
Mhm.
tell people, what my position is, what I believe in. I'll also say that when a case comes to me, just like the bypass cases would come to myself and others, you would make a decision based upon the law and the Constitution. We're always going to do that. Even if we don't like the result, we're bound, take an oath to follow the law and the Constitution. Uh, I want that authority back.
Yeah. So you had mentioned people can reach out to Yost or LaRose. How can people connect with you and support you in any way that they can? Your campaign, obviously, but in any way, how can people connect and
They,
help you?
they could reach out to David Engler, Engler, on Facebook, Judge David Engler. I have a TikTok channel, Judging David is my TikTok. I got attacked because I promoted back in October a Charlie Kirk vigil, Jerry, and I had my robe on at the time on my TikTok, right? And
Yeah.
we had prayers and sang song, and I got grieved over it. Someone filed a
Mm.
grievance. I have to defend myself. I have to
Crazy.
defend myself, and all I'm doing is like bringing the community together to say some prayers and to sing some songs, and then watch the funeral on TV. And
Yeah.
and I find myself in a position of being under attack by
Mm.
my own government.
Yeah. Well, if you win this case, and I hope you do, you'll be under attack, I'm sure, even more. So I think everyone listening is going to need to say some prayers for Judge Engler.
Oh,
Thank you, though, Judge David Engler, for coming on the show and for first and foremost for doing what you're doing. This is really fantastic, and I appreciate you sharing this news with everybody.
thank you so much, Jerry, and I appreciate it. And I too. You've been doing this longer than me, but it's remarkable how angry the other side gets, right? When
Hmm.
you talk the truth. All I'm doing is like talking the truth. Parents' rights
Yeah.
are gone, kids are in danger, and they don't like me saying it.
Yep, absolutely. It tells you who they really care about. That's the truth. Thank you again, Judge David Engler. Really appreciate you being here, and I appreciate all of you listening to this episode of From the Median podcast. We will see you next time.